So if you've been following along in this video series, you will know that progesterone is the first hormone to fall in perimenopause, and we can use certain foods to help boost progesterone production. But what about herbs, supplements, and natural remedies? That's what I'm going to cover in today's video, and make sure you stick around to the end because I'm also going to share with you my 3 most used homeopathic remedies for women in perimenopause. And hi, if we haven't met, I'm Chelsea Green, holistic hormone specialist. I help women transition from peri to postmenopause naturally using homeopathy, herbs, nutrition, and lifestyle medicine. This is the 3rd video in a series on boosting progesterone levels naturally in perimenopause. And if you missed the previous 2 videos, the first one being on the signs and symptoms of low progesterone levels, and the second one on how to use food to boost progesterone levels, make sure to check out the description below this video. I'll link both of them there. So in my last video on foods to boost progesterone levels, I gave you a list of nutrients required for progesterone production, including vitamins E, vitamin C, vitamin B6, and minerals like magnesium and zinc. And I suggested that I wouldn't necessarily recommend these nutrients as supplements without first working with a client and without running a hair tissue mineral analysis, with the exception of magnesium. So magnesium is the first supplement that you can use to help boost your progesterone levels, and I always recommend a magnesium glycinate. Now, magnesium works in a couple of different ways. Magnesium is a key mineral for all hormone regulation. It regulates the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland is known as the master gland when it comes to hormones. Think of it as the conductor in the orchestra. And so the health of the pituitary gland plays a vital role in progesterone production. But more importantly, one of the things that will drastically reduce your progesterone production is stress. We live in a chronically stressed world. We're overly stressed, we're overly busy, we're always on, we're always switched on, and we're not making enough time for rest and relaxation. That results in excess stress hormones, and that always comes at the expense of progesterone production. So the body will prioritize making stress hormones over making progesterone. And in that stress state, we burn through magnesium. So we constantly need to be replenishing magnesium stores, and for that reason I am a huge fan of magnesium supplementation. But in addition to that, magnesium is like a calming tonic. It calms everything down, it soothes that stressed nervous system, and it just kind of puts a nice calming filter over everything. It helps with anxiety, it helps with sleep, it helps with hormonal headaches, all of which we can see in that low progesterone state. And talking about stress leads me to our next supplement, which is actually an adaptogen herb. It's ashwagandha. Adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha lower stress levels, and they help us to be more stress resilient. So as we move through peri to postmenopause, we lose that stress resilience. So ashwagandha can be really useful for helping us to just manage our stress levels. So yes, ashwagandha helps to improve stress levels, normalize cortisol production, and in that way that helps with progesterone production. Ashwagandha is also shown to improve sleep, anxiety, and thyroid health. And the health of the thyroid and progesterone production are linked. So we want a nice healthy thyroid for progesterone, and for that reason I am a huge fan of ashwagandha. Our next herb is maca, and maca, like ashwagandha, is an adaptogen herb, and it's also a phytoestrogen. So I mentioned in previous videos that when we have low progesterone levels in that perimenopausal state, we naturally end up in an estrogen dominant state, and phytoestrogens help to balance out estrogen levels, whether it's high or low. We can use phytoestrogens to help create estrogen balance. So it can be very useful for estrogen dominant symptoms like heavy flooding periods, painful periods, breast tenderness, PMS, irritability, and rage before the period, all of which you'll see when progesterone is out of balance with estrogen. Additionally, it's great for energy, for libido, and for night sweats, all of which can become problematic in a low progesterone state. So next up we have Agnes Castus, chasteberry, vitex, whatever you want to call it. Agnes Castus is known for supporting progesterone levels by regulating luteinizing hormone production. And it's particularly useful if you are struggling with low progesterone symptoms like PMS, short cycles, heavy periods, and breast tenderness. Okay, so the final herb that I'm going to share with you today is white peony. And white peony is a herb that's used in traditional Chinese medicine. White peony is used for lots of different low progesterone states, including PCOS, infertility, endometriosis, ovarian failure, and of course perimenopause. And it's been shown to positively influence progesterone levels, excess androgen, so your male hormones like testosterone, and modulate estrogen and prolactin. Typically in traditional Chinese medicine, peony is not used as a singular herb. It's used in combination with other herbs. Now, full transparency, I am not a herbalist. I am a homeopath and a functional health coach, a women's health coach, but I do use herbs in homeopathic form. I use something called homeobotanicals. They are herbal tinctures, but they've been potentized, so they are homeopathic. So I do have some knowledge of herbs, but as I said, I'm not a herbalist. So if you want to use herbs and you are interested in herbs outside of homeopathics or outside of a pre-made supplement, I would strongly recommend that you work with a qualified herbalist. And as always, if you're starting a new supplementation, please do check for contraindications if you're on any kind of medication, including a HRT. And if you're ever unsure, please check with your healthcare provider. Okay, on to homeopathic remedies. Now, we do have progesterone as a homeopathic remedy, but actually it's not a remedy I prescribe a lot. The 3 remedies I'm going to share with you often cover the total picture. And in homeopathy, we have a principle which states our law of the minimum dose. That means that we give the minimum amount of a remedy to see change. So if I can find a singular remedy that's going to cover an entire picture, I'm always going to choose that remedy instead. So the first remedy that I do use quite often, and that is a very well-known homeopathic female remedy, is sepia. In a healthy state, sepia has loads of energy. She's always doing, always giving, very caring, looks after everyone, very capable and independent, but that leads her to end up in an exhausted, burnt out state. So sepia in her unhealthy state is worn out and indifferent, and she's particularly irritated by her partner and her children. So if you're the type of woman who gets irritated by the little things before your period and they don't normally bother you the rest of the month, it could be that you're looking at a sepia picture. In fact, hit the like button if that resonates with you. So in that worn out and exhausted state, sepia just wants to be left alone. She dreams of escaping. Her periods can either be scanty or heavy, or they maybe were previously scanty and then have since become heavy in perimenopause. She may have breast tenderness and backache, particularly in the small of the back, and if she has period pain, it's dragging. All the pains of sepia are dragging. Everything's dragging down as if it's going to fall out. And everything with sepia is worse before the period, better for the flow. The next homeopathic remedy, and an equally well-known female remedy, is Pulsatilla. So whereas sepia is very independent, very capable, Pulsatilla wants to be loved and cared for. So she's very mild, very yielding, can be very tearful until she's not, and then she can become Pulsatilla the Hun. So with Pulsatilla, everything is changeable. There can be intermittent or irregular flow, there can be heavy periods or light periods, everything is changeable. But there's always that tearfulness before the period. And with that tearfulness, they want the cuddles, they want the consolation, they want the company, unlike the sepia picture that just wants to be left alone. Again, they are worse before the period. So if you find yourself very tearful before a period, very emotional, then that might be a sign that you need some Pulsatilla. Okay, so my next homeopathic remedy is Semisauga. And if you've been wondering why I haven't included black cohosh in this list, that is because I prefer it in the homeopathic form, which is Semisauga. So Semisauga, or Simic for short, covers sadness, depression, the feeling like there's a black cloud over everything, there's dread, despair, feeling that something bad is going to happen. And the periods are heavy and painful, and the pain can be quite intense, almost like labor pains, and it can shoot down the legs, down the thighs, can move into the small of the back, and it also covers hormonal headaches, joint pains, and muscle tension. So a fabulous remedy in perimenopause. So in homeopathy, there are thousands and thousands of remedies. So if these 3 remedies, if they're not resonating with you, don't despair, there will be a remedy for you. It's just a case of speaking to a practitioner, doing a little bit of research, and finding the right remedy for you. Okay, so there are some ways that you can help your progesterone levels using herbs, supplements, and homeopathics. But with all hormones, we have to be taking a holistic approach. So make sure you have subscribed and hit that notification bell, because I'm going to be talking about this more in the next video. Hint, hint, you can't just take a supplement and hope for the best.